Hello everybody and welcome to Knockhill as the GR86 UK Cup here with the Tanso Racing Group continues. Right the way to the middle of December. In 2 weeks' time we will be crowning our champion of the UK Cup after the final round at Thruxton, which is about to be added into the iRacing service. This circuit has not long been in, but it's a classic British racetrack, and very glad to be along here once again. It's myself, Ian Leary, and Bradley Dalton as well. And just 3 rounds to go, this being round number 5, a classic British circuit, although not a circuit that I'd imagine people outside the UK have seen very much of here, Brad. It is very unique indeed, though, under a minute in terms of lap times, even in these slow cars. It is a very, very interesting prospect tonight indeed.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. And yeah, this is a track that I hadn't heard of until I saw it on this calendar. And it was one that I was not familiar with at all up until now. 55-second lap times, though. I'm quite thrilled at the prospect of those lap times and seeing some very, very aggressive runs here. I'm going to pull up the track map for everybody here on the right-hand side. You can see it's a very... I'd call it deceptively simple track in terms of its setup. It's a clockwise run. There is some up downhill to it, but it is a very, well, I mean, traditional UK track. That's the best I can really say for it. And I'm trying to get a replay here real quick because this is something that I've seen a lot through practice, is what Peter Woodmore did. Off to the side, straight into the wall off of turn 1. I have a feeling we're going to see quite a bit of that today.
Yeah, that's where the rallycross circuit goes here, of course. You go through turn 1 normally, and then you take a very sharp right-hand turn at turn 2 instead. Oh dear, it's spinning around on the back straight there is Dan Wareham, who's currently second in the session. Only, though, a few thousandths of a second behind Scott McFall, who is leading this qualifying session, but only by a pretty small margin. There you go, 27 thousandths of a second. I mean, I know that this is a short circuit, and you know, that comes with smaller gaps as well, but for it to be this close is quite remarkable. And Mark Brown is only 38 thousandths away as well here, so Scott McFall might have his hands full here today in terms of trying to win once again. He's already got 5 wins, of course, in 8 races this season, including race 1 on every evening. I wonder whether Wareham and Brown can put that under any threat here today.
It's going to be close. I'm liking the closeness of this track and of really the battle it's going to give. We're going to get an onboard lap here, Ewan, and again, don't blink and you'll miss it. It's going to be a very, very quick lap, and there's not a lot of room for error. There's lots of time to eke out here, and I have a feeling that we're going to see at least the top 10 separated by under a second, if not even closer. And the other thing I want to really watch is just how fast they go. I mean, they're coming through. It's called chicane, for those of you curious, as we go past John Johnston there. I mean, they're still hitting over 100 miles an hour through this track at sections, which is amazing for how small it is.
It is quite remarkable as we now make our way to the final corner here with Scott McFall. Very, very steeply uphill indeed. Got to take that late apex. It's a very important final corner indeed, because it, of course, matters for your run towards the line. Another uphill drag, and it is very uphill, by the way, this, before plunging back down again. The elevation change is something that you really do have to watch out for here around this circuit, and it looks like he did go a little bit quicker there, Scott McFall. Our first 54-second lap time, 54.9 from Scott McFall, and now for the first time he's over a tenth and a half ahead of Dan Wareham.
Yeah, and you'll continue to see those times come down as the session goes. Neil Kennedy, 55.381, and something else that we've changed in the overlay with this, we've got the first initials up to try to help identify drivers for who's who, who's where as we go. Scott McFall, purple in the middle sector yet again here. Scott McFall still finding time. Will we see a 54.5? And who can compete with that? It's going to be, I mean, it's going to be very close, but Scott McFall doing Scott McFall things here and just kind of showing up and showing off very, very early on.
Can he go any quicker? It's one of those circuits where you don't particularly slow down, build up to a lap. You sort of go round and round and round, going quicker and quicker and quicker. So we will see at what stage that comes to an end, because it will at some point, as we go round to the other part of the circuit now. And Peter Woodmore, who is just making his way to the final corner now. I think that's Simon McPhee just up ahead in 12th place in the standings. Just up ahead, giving him a little bit of a draft. I can't see it being too much of a factor around here, although maybe they are helping each other around these straighter sections. Out over the line now for Woodmore. Needs about half a tenth if he wants to improve his position, and goes over the line looking like he's going to stay where he is. So that's maintaining the 7th place for now. 7.5 minutes to go, so still half this session. And of course, a different working of this session to what we've normally seen in the UK Cup so far this season, where they've had 3 laps with the circuit to themselves over 10 minutes. This time round, they're all out together over 15 minutes. And there's no limit, seemingly, on how many laps they can do. I guess if they were only limited to 3 laps round here, the session would be over very quickly indeed.
Yeah, I like the group qualifying for this track. I think this is a track that very well suits it for the size, for the nature of it, just kind of the high-speed run that it has. It makes sense for me personally to have just this group qualifying session. And I'm not going to lie, with the GR86s, I really like the group qualifying session. I think it produces a lot of very close action. It kind of gives a little bit of a glimpse into what we're expecting, but the cars are a bit more spread out. And, if you get on track, say you are Michael Vester, who is behind, and you get behind Scott McFall, you can try to find a little bit more time there just by following those faster cars and seeing exactly, who's doing what's where, and making things work out. We're following along right now with Collier and the number 16 here, who is just trying to stay nice and smooth and consistent, looking pretty good here as we go. I don't think anyone's going to challenge that 54.9 from Scott McFall, though.
I think he was the only driver in practice to go into the 54s, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same in qualifying here. Impressive that he's been able to do it over the course of a 15-minute session, although, as I say, you would get plenty of opportunities around this circuit. You could probably fit 16 laps in 15 minutes around this circuit, so we're probably going to get over 20 laps in both of the races because of how short this circuit is. Of course, the full reverse grid to come a little bit later on. That will be race number 2, 25 minutes, of course, but opening race is 20 minutes, and I do think the qualifying is going to be important for track position. I mean, it's not a circuit where overtaking is impossible, but it's not easy either. So I think this performance at the moment from Scott McFall and all the others who are up towards the front of the moment, particularly Dan Wareham, actually, who have been very impressed with so far in this qualifying session. Very important laps that they've got in here, and it's given them good position for the start of this race.
Yeah, and it's going to be, I think this is going to be a case of the jump off the line, as that was Elaine McCain there who just had a moment. I'm going to take a look at how that one happened here. Again, this is just kind of giving us a glimpse into what's to come. This is through chicane, and the car snaps and then snaps back the other way into the wall.
This car can do that very easily indeed. Just like to snap all over the place. Scott McFall makes his way out onto the circuit for a final run at this. Dan Wareham is having his final run, as it were, out on the circuit at the moment, out over the line for him. Doesn't look like this is natural time, though. It wasn't popping up on the bottom, so doesn't look like he's setting a time at all. Setting one up, maybe. But as you said earlier, I think it is going to be very difficult indeed to beat Scott McFall's time. And actually, not many people are able to even beat their own times as things stand. There has been very little change in the order in the last few moments.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's really hit their wall. We see Peter Duke, Elaine McCain are on outlaps now. Cunfer back in P16 is back on an outlap. And it looks like this is the case of drivers just trying to find that little bit more time. Simon McPhee able to cross the line and find a little bit more time. It looks like we do have some green sectors coming through, some personal best, but no purple sectors. Nobody's really finding that extra time. And even then, when we see one sector up, we're seeing another sector down. Dan Forrester comes across the line, improved 2 sectors, but was so slow in the first that doesn't improve from P6. And we're seeing a lot of drivers try to go through. And then again, Scott McFall puts a purple middle sector in.
Yeah, Dan Wareham did improve there, so he's less than a tenth away now from Scott McFall, who is looking to respond with 3 minutes to go. He will get 3 more laps, will Scott McFall, if he needs them here at the end of this session. Over the line goes McFall. As you say, purple in the middle. Does he go any quicker? Doesn't look like it. So Scott McFall stays in the lead by less than a tenth. Good afternoon, by the way, to everyone who's watching along. Curtis Matthews apologising for his absence on the circuit here today, but of course we'll be cheering on his OGRO teammates. Clyde Comfer is down in 16th place as things stand, for example. And Jamie Christie reminding us that Scott McFall's home track is Knockhill, so it will be difficult to beat, as he is everywhere, but especially today, as Dan Ware makes his way over the line, and he stays second here he's probably got another 2 attempts as well.
Yeah, and he is going to take full advantage of all of them. And just so everybody at home is aware, when we talk about second sector, it is honestly the exit out of turn 2 through the chicane. That is your second sector of Knockhill. It's a very, very short lap. It's just about 20 seconds. Ooh, I see
Brown.
2 purples from Mark Brown, though.
Wow, that's completely taken me by surprise. Oh, it's a big slide. Oh, has he just thrown it away at the end there? Wow, that was a big slide. Can he get away with it here? He's clearly slower in the final sector. Is he too slow to improve? Oh, he does improve, but only by half a tenth. Wow, I get the feeling he might have thrown that all away at the final corner.
That is going to hurt, but thankfully, again, it's a short enough lap. One more attempt, but the car in front slides wide, goes into the back. And for Mark Brown, that is session over. I believe that was Michael Vester in front of him that was possibly just trying to stay out of his way and give him a shot at the lap. Unfortunate to see that through, and for Mark Brown, that is session over. Was getting very quick there at the end. Not going to be able to have a run for pole. We'll start on the second row, though, and hey, we know race starts can be interesting. Look at Dan Forster, though. Purple first sector was good in the middle and, runs it off track.
That's a spin to the inside of the penultimate corner, turn 6 at Clark. We'll see how that happened here on the replay just as this session comes to a close. Into the corner. He's up on the... Oh, everyone's sliding their way through here. Goodness me, it's a bit of a mess. Oh, and nearly rolled over in the gravel there. Dear, oh dear. Well, that looks like it's just about going to be the end of the session. Mike Walters is improving in his own middle sector, but is he going to be able to move up any places here? He's a tenth and a half behind. McPhee ahead in 11th place. So can he get anywhere near him? It doesn't really look like it. Walters stays in 12th place. So that looks like the end of the session. Scott McFall is going to have a job on his hands, though, in this race, I think. Based on those times there, it's going to be a close race.
That he is, and the race start, I think, is really going to be what proves the difference here for everyone. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing, is how the race start goes, how the first couple of corners go. For the record, we are not in the Gary Stagg commentary tower. We are, of course, in the JP Broadcasting tower. But, Ewan, let's bring up the grid here for you, and let's run through this grid real quick.
Yes, it's Scott McFall who's on the pole ahead of Dan Wareham and Mark Brown, who really pushed him in that session. Neil Kennedy a bit further back and forth with Alan McCain and Dave Collier on row 3. It's Peter Duke and Dan Forster sharing row 4 ahead of Mark Proctor and Peter Woodmore, with Simon McPhee and Rick Wishon just outside of the top 10. Wishon, the first of a few American drivers down towards the back here. Then Mike Walters next in Cummings from the Australia-New Zealand region in 14th place ahead of Jeremy Ullermans, Michael Vester, Clyde Comfer and John Johnson, the last of the UK drivers at the very back there in 18th place. The reason I'm pointing out those, of course, is because I reckon the UK drivers will have a lot more better of an idea of even where this circuit goes in terms of when it turns left and right than people from other places. But that's not to say that the others won't know about Knockhill. As we have a look at the grid there they are on the start-finish straight. And as you can see, by the way, it's almost an entirely uphill starting grid here, and those down towards the back certainly, or sort of 2/3 down, if you like, very steeply uphill to begin with for them. So it is pretty difficult. Whereas you're just cresting the rise if you are at the front of the field. Well, the red lights are coming on now, and it's almost time to go. Scott McFall from the pole here at Knockhill. The green flag waves for 20 minutes here in this opening race, and down in towards turn number 1 they go. Wareham just tucks in behind Scott McFall at the moment, with Mark Brown getting alongside Wareham for second place, and he gets through. That was pretty easy for Mark Brown in the end, who makes it out to second at a Dan Wareham. Neil Kennedy and Alan McCain round out the top 5.
Yeah, and as they go through, this is going to move very, very quickly. So, ladies and gentlemen, just kind of keep your eyes on everyone, because these laps go quick, thick, and fast. Everybody's made their way through. It looks like Peter Woodmore already out of the session. It looks like just not going through. And as we run through these hills, this countryside, everybody is settled in single file fairly quickly, and they are going to really just be trying to look at holding on. Michael Vester back here in the background going for a pass on Allerman's, able to get that pass through, and Allerman's dropping another place there to back in with Dean Cummins. So they go side by side out of the final corner, keep this fight going, and, well, Scott McFall able to nail the race start.
It certainly was. We'll see who can stay with him now as that battle further down gets interesting. Allerman's has been out-dragged by Dean Cummins there on the exit of the final corner, and so they'll go single file in towards the opening corners. Oh, big crash in the background. Clyde Comfort, who's found the wall just at the rallycross entrance there. The right-hander, you can see the remnants of the dirt as well as the gravel trap. It's the classic inside of the first curb, and he's got up on 2 wheels. As he bounces back down again, the car breaks traction, and he just can't save it, and he's going to hit the wall pretty hard here.
Very, very hard hit there from Clyde, and that is probably gonna really hurt his racing chances. Look at I'm shocked that car is even still moving there. Look at that front end, absolutely destroyed. Jumping back up front here with Scott McFall, who is continuing along here, having a very fun little race and a good time here for Scott McFall up in the front, continuing to move this car along. He's going to try to just eke a gap if possible, and just, want to settle in. Have to mind the sausage curbs though, and I could go on a tangent about sausage curbs. They are not my favorite thing on any racetrack, but it does produce some moments, as it looks like Mark Proctor is our next victim.
He is. Spins around, and that was out of chicane at turn 5. Meanwhile, Rick Wishon and Dan Forster. Oh, Walters also got off. He spun to the inside of Clark there, turn 6. So we'll have a couple of replays of that in a few moments' time, but they'll be picking themselves out the gravel in the next few moments as Scott McFall makes his way over the line, 1.1 seconds ahead of Mark Brown. Dan Wareham is under a lot of pressure here from Neil Kennedy and Alan McCain, who's 5th at the moment, really applying the pressure through turns 1 and 2. He can't work his way through, though. This is what I meant earlier, really, about this circuit being not the hardest to make overtakes, but certainly there is difficulty to some of these moves around this circuit. Not loads of chances here.
Indeed, it's going to be something that we've got to keep our eyes on. You've got to just... It's a very sort of... You have to make the move stick when you go for it. You just have to make it stick, make it go. I want to go back and look at Mark Proctor here. What happened with Mark Proctor? And is this a sausage curb moment yet again? The answer is yes. The car comes around and then is just going to hit the grass and keep going. So... nothing that could be done there. Thankfully not hitting the barriers. Mike Walters, though, I think it was a slightly different story here for Mike Walters coming through, and this one hard on the brakes through to the inside. Just a little too much curb, and the car just getting upset there. Comes back around and goes straight into the gravel, and again, I don't think any wall contact, thankfully.
Yep, so he gets away with that, but... oh God, that was a slide from McCain. Well saved though, in 5th place from Alan McCain. These curves do seem to be behaving weirdly with these cars, to be honest. It seems that sometimes you hit them and you're fine, and sometimes you hit them in the same way and you're not. But there you go. Collier still 6th, under a lot of pressure here from Peter Duke and Dan Forster, who of course has won 2 races this season. Down on the brakes they go again, and Peter Duke goes through up into 6th place ahead of Collier. Forster moves backwards, and Rick Wishon's able to close in as a result, but he's out with no slipstream on the outside line there. He's going to struggle, and he will tuck back into line again. This battle is for 6th place, and Peter Duke and Dave Collier managed to get ahead of Forster here, who's under pressure for 8th place, I should say. But this is the biggest group on the racetrack by far. 5 of them fighting here for 6th place.
Yeah, I think if you're Peter Duke here, your big goal is going to be to just basically look ahead, not behind, because if you're Peter Duke and you look behind, what are you going to see? Well, you're going to see, if we can get the cameras to cooperate, exactly this, which is not what you want to think about, especially when you have those dangerous curbs. You have the very aggressive turns, and early on the brakes was Collier through there. That was, I can't tell if that was a teammate move or maybe just a very early braking moment as they go through. Again, though, you've got to just rely on the car behind, and they're going to be working together a little bit here, but you got to be very careful and not think about them. Just think about hitting your marks, nailing the race, and making sure you're doing everything that you need to do to keep things moving in this position. Up ahead, though, we do still have Neil Kennedy that's under pressure by Alan McCain.
Yes, this is the only battle inside the top 5 now, with the top 3 spreading themselves apart. Kennedy under a lot of pressure, though. His run through Clark wasn't the best, and he will be under a lot of pressure towards the hairpin there from McCain. Here he goes to the outside line, McCain. Now, he's better off focusing on that exit. Late apex in the run onto the front straight. Will that be a move in towards turn 1? He's not got quite as good a run as I was expecting there, actually, as he makes his way over. Will he be able to get through? Not by the looks of things this time round. Further behind, change between McPhee and Forster. Dan Forster down to 10th place now, so he was fighting for 5th earlier on, Dan Forster. Now all of a sudden he's dropped to the back of this group.
Yeah, but with how compressed this pack is, I don't think it's going to be too much of a concern for Dan Forster. I think he will continue to close that gap up. Collier and Peter Duke have swapped positions there, so it looks like maybe deciding Peter Duke might be a little better at defending. Collier might have a little bit more speed. The cars are orange, so I have to say it. Maybe some papaya rules being thrown into play. That will be the last time I make a F1 style joke in this GR86 UK Cup. Maybe. I don't promise anything here, Ewan, and you know that. But they go through, coming through the final corner, and again, another lap underway here. Still 12 and a half minutes to go, and we're already starting lap number 10.
Yeah, so you do get very dizzy, I've got to say, by watching too much Knockhill, but there you go. These Legford races are quite about right, really, for this kind of circuit, as Collier there got massively up onto 2 wheels through turn 1. Normally that's a problem, but he got away with it that time round. Kennedy is losing a place to Alan McCain. I thought it was Kennedy off the road. Actually, it was Peter Woodmore who's returned back to pit lane now, but into the slipstream goes Kennedy because he's lost the position in towards Clark Corner. He fakes it to the outside. Thought he was going to have a look to the inside, but no. And McCain will consolidate 4th place. After all that trying, just took a mistake from Kennedy, and he was through as the battle for ninth comes up again. McPhee and Forster going side by side, and this time Dan Forster around the outside gets the place.
Yeah, Forster with a very good move there. Peter Woodmore, our first driver, officially out, with Clyde Cunfer unofficially out, still in the pits for the last 5 laps. What happened to Peter Woodmore? Well, I will give you the answer very quickly. What happened to Peter Woodmore to put Peter Woodmore out of this race? And it looks like this is actually nowhere near as dramatic as I thought it was going to be. It's a pullover and a stop, so not sure what happened with that. Hopefully everything is okay there. I was expecting like a turn 1 moment, but nothing too wild, and we keep things moving. Still 16 cars on track out of the 18 that started.
Yeah, a little bit less in terms of numbers this time around, of course, for this round of the UK Cup, but, you know, we're nearing Christmas, nearing the end of another iRacing season. Everyone's getting very tired. As John Johnston goes for a spin through the chicane. Don't know how that will have happened, but I could take a guess based on what we've seen so far from this corner. It's a real shock to the system, this section, if you like, this chicane. Up over the, and that's what I mean about these curves. I bet John's done that before about 10 times in this race, and only this time it sent him into a spin. I really don't understand how he raced this circuit properly.
I think it's a little bit of a wing and a prayer, if we're going to be honest. I think there is a degree of luck that comes into it. I think there's a degree of skill that comes into it. I think there's a degree of maybe not going side by side through there. And for Dan Forrester, that is, he comes out on the short end of the battle and is going to lose all the way down into P10, lose a considerable amount of time there for Dan Forrester in that battle.
Yes. He will drop way down to oh no, well, not for long. Simon McPhee all of a sudden is miles off, and now he's cutting the corner. Well, he's not really gaining an advantage, I suppose, is he? But he makes his way back out onto the circuit again. I don't know why he is lawn mowing out there, though, and he's going to be under pressure from Vesta and Orlemans, who he lets through. Maybe he's serving a slowdown, even though he will have lost a lot of time. I've no idea, but he drops now to 12th place. Something is not well here with Simon McPhee.
Yeah, we'll see what happened with Simon McPhee really quick, and then I want to go back and look at Dan Forrester one more time. For Simon McPhee, this is into the final corner, and it looks like the back end of the car just kicks out to the front end of the car, and he just kind of has to do a quick loop-to-loop, and not a corner cut, just doing the corner twice, if you will. Going back for the Dan Forrester moment as well. What happened to him here with the number 74 of Rick Wishon, and again, they were side by side going in there. 2 into 1 does not go, and thankfully, again, no barrier hits there. Drivers seeming to not have the best time with this track. It seems like, again, as you said, Ewan, you can drive the circuit 1,000 times the same way, and then one time randomly you're going to hit that curb maybe a millimeter too much to the right or the left, and it's going to kind of just throw you off into the hillside.
Yeah, and apologies to Simon McPhee. I thought he got off before the corner and ended up cutting it, but as you say, sort of doing it twice. And the reason, of course, why he was looking like he was cutting the corners because he was just sliding down the hill, basically. Not much grip on the grass, really. And that certainly caused a problem as Rick Wishon's off the road. There's so much action going on around the circuit at the moment because of this circuit, basically, and just how difficult it is Rick Wishon into Clark Corner. Which is where Forster tried to make his move on him before, and that is too far up the curb. That's not quite the way to do it, up on 2 wheels too much and sides around. But again, I don't quite understand why some people are able to get up onto 2 wheels and save it and some people aren't. Spinning around almost out of their control. I don't really understand why that's happening to them. But anyway, that's down the order for Wishon as Kennedy and McCain get close together again in towards Clark Corner. Kennedy's going to try and get the run out of this one. He's not quite got it, though, in this battle for 4th place.
Yeah, as Kennedy and McCain will continue to battle, they are pushing things through. Arlemans and Michael Vester are battling as well. I want to watch a lap of Scott McFall, or maybe even just a couple of corners is all it'll take, because Scott McFall, I think, is a prime example of just enough car control to let the car bounce, but it's not uncontrollable. Scott McFall is doing really well of just letting the car ramp the curbs, but not losing control of the car. I mean, watch, every time he goes into a corner, you're seeing 2 wheels come up just enough. And then he's able to keep the car together, keep the car moving, and keep it going forward. Doing an extremely good job there for Scott McFall. Maybe that's the difference of the GR86. It's that millimeter difference of being able to control the car through the bumps and just not let it get away from you. I don't know how you master that skill. I might have to hire Scott McFall for lessons. Who is that just ran off in the background? McPhee.
Simon McPhee has got off there. Oh, he's damaged as well. The front right is toast. Oh dear, Simon McPhee has hit the curb on the inside a bit too much here. I mean, he's not really even clipped the red bit, but anyway, slides his way through. Bounces back off of 2 wheels again onto 4, but you can't control it at that point. You're bobbling over the grass and the gravel, and that's a bad angle to get in the wall as well there, because that really does expose your front right tyre to a big bit of contact there. Simon McPhee in pit lane, and, well, that is a real shame for him with just over 5 minutes to go in this race. Scott McFall making his way around the final corner now to the end of lap 16, and he passes Mike Walters, who goes for a spin. He was putting pressure onto Mark Proctor, but he's certainly not anymore.
Yeah, Mike Walters just spinning right there out of the final corner just as Scott McFall came through. Happened to catch that. We still have Jeremy Ollermans and Michael Vester that are battling things out as they continue along. I'm curious to know from Michael Vester's point of view how he is feeling with this battle. It seems like he's pretty comfortable here at the moment as Ollermans. Wow. I'm just gonna blah 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 as Jeremy Ollermans is putting in just enough pressure, staying there is in the mix, but Michael Vester is doing a very good job of not cracking under pressure as we continue along.
Yes, that is a battle that is going to continue ticking along indeed for the next 5 minutes or so. Peter Woodmore in the YouTube chat mentioning his reasons for retirement. I hope you were feeling better soon or wellish at the moment, Peter, as well as you can, I suppose. Unfortunately, that means I guess he will be retired tonight from the UK Cup. So a shame to see, but hopefully we'll see you back and ready next week again for the penultimate round of the season, which of course is at Silverstone, by the way, on the 8th of December. We'll be here again on the JPB YouTube channel as always. Vester and Ollermans make their way down to the final corner here, and Ollermans, I was about to say, is giving it a go. He wasn't quite, but he was looking at the final corner there, and he's got a good run as well. He's in the slipstream here, Ollermans. Is he close enough for a move at turn one? You need to be very close, because there's not really a braking zone. So you need to be right up the back here, and at the moment he just isn't. So that will be Vester holding on to ninth place with just probably 4 laps to go for them.
Yeah, Ollerman's just close enough to stay, again, in striking distance if anything were to happen, but not able to really force the move there. Is going to just stay right on the back and continue to fall along here through the lower part of the hill as we start the run back uphill yet again here. Cars have seemed to stabilize a little bit more too as this race has gone on. I don't know if that is actually the car stabilizing out and handling, or if it's just the drivers kind of dialing it back that one sort of percent that they need to keep the car on track to get to the end.
That was very wide from Collier, and Peter Duke will be able to close in very quickly indeed here towards the chicane. Up over the top they go, and now through the right-hander of Clark. Up they go through the gravel slightly as well, but there you go. They'll get away with that. And the battles are just quietened down now towards the end. We're just over 2 minutes away from the completion of this race. It'll be 3 laps then. 22 laps look like they're on the cards. I think I said 21 earlier. I didn't even mean that. I meant 22. But anyway, it is lap 20 now as they go over the line. And Scott McFall is still leading by 2 seconds from Mark Brown, who was consolidating very nicely indeed his second place in the championship. Scott McFall is the runaway leader, of course, in that championship with already 117 points over the rest of the field, but he's looking to extend it even further and might well do here tonight as he makes his way over the line here with a minute and a half to go. Could be on his way to his 5th race 1 victory in 5 rounds of this championship.
Yeah, Scott McFall, race 1 is always going to be written to Scott McFall, I feel, here in the GR86 series, regardless of if it's the UK Cup, the US Cup, whatever they might be running track-wise. These GR86s, just, Scott McFall has them under. I mean, look at, I don't know how else to say that other than just look. It's beautiful to watch Scott McFall make this car work in ways that I don't understand how. I do want to jump back here. Jeremy Ollermans going side by side with Michael Vester, getting the inside line through the final corner. Scott McFall just behind them here, and Jeremy is able to get ahead there in the battle for P9. We'll see how that holds on here through the final couple of laps. For Scott McFall, though, for me, it's going to be how does race 2 handle for Scott McFall as the white flag is waving for Scott McFall. Race 2 is going to be what gets interesting. We get the full reverse grid in. Scott McFall will be starting P18, realistically P16, depending on if Clyde and Peter Woodmore make the race start. This track is not simple to pass on, though, and that's where I think Scott McFall might find some trouble.
Yeah, he could find some trouble. It is his home circuit, though, so if anyone can find a way through, it's going to be him. And there's less cars to come through today than he has had in the past, when he still has been able to get some very good finishes in race 2, despite starting last. So don't count out Scott McFall just yet, as we make it our way into the final quarter of this race. Scott McFall is going to win again in round number 5 of the Tanso Racing Group GR86 UK Cup. Scott McFall is a race winner again. 5th race 1 victory of the season and his 6th win overall. A quite remarkable season for Scott McFall, and he's closing in very quickly now on that championship. Collier, meanwhile, he's losing out here to Peter Duke. What's happened to him? Through Clark, it looks like he's got off, or something's happened to him. He's not run out of fuel. He's just losing time here, and Peter Duke moves up to 6th place. Oh, dear. Dave Collier is going to be disappointed to have missed out right at the very end. Peter Duke snatches that one off him at the finish. And Vester and Wishon, meanwhile, are side by side as well here, going towards the final corner. Oh, Wishon very nearly hits. Oh, Jeremy Orlemans there in 9th place. That was very close indeed. Orlemans and Wishon get the top 10. Michael Vester not quite, but they very nearly made contact.
Big moment there in the end, and to answer the Peter Duke, David Collier moment for how that happened, let's go back and find it, because I don't think that was a accident that happened. I believe that was actually teammates swapping positions is how that went. So I think David Collier had been ahead of Peter Duke, and then right there on the final moment decided to switch it out and hand that position back. At least that's how it looked for the millimeter of time that I saw it before the pass. I don't think that there was any sort of off track or anything crazy. I think that was 100% on purpose. But even then, the battles down further were getting very, very interesting.
That is interesting. Okay. Fine. That's slightly odd, but anyway. Well, yeah. The reason why I'm so speechless, I don't really know why they do that, but anyway, they have done it. It turns out. So there we go. That's race 1 complete. In a few moments' time, we'll be back again, of course, with race 2. 25 minutes still to come, but you briefly touched on it there. We can probably dive a little bit deeper into it now. I mean, it was difficult at times to overtake here. However, I think Scott McFall's still going to be able to manage it, not least because it is his home circuit and there are less cars to come through as well. I think he does still start this second race actually as probably the favourite to go on and win it, to be honest. I mean, it sounds a bit crazy to say. However, I think, it's entirely possible he can get through 17 drivers or 16 drivers or whatever it's going to be. It looks like Clyde Cumper will take the start here. So looks like 16 drivers he'll have to come through. And, I still think he can do it.
I think the big key for me is just going to be, when you look at Scott McFall, you look at the pace Scott McFall has in the GR86, you look at the car control Scott McFall has, you would be very, very hard fought to not bet on Scott McFall, honestly. I think for me, the question isn't necessarily how does Scott McFall get through the cars ahead, it's how do the cars ahead keep Scott McFall behind. Because passing opportunities appear to be limited, but at the same time appear to just be there if you can find one and take it. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's kind of just how it feels. Is they're there, but they're not. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think for Scott McFall, the bigger challenge again is just going to be how does the traffic react to him when he goes for the pass? Do they fight really hard? Do they make it easier? What comes out of that?
Yeah, it's true. That does very much affect things as well in terms of making your way through. Of course, in these races, as we know, as we Someone find the wall there. Clark. Quick thanks to our sponsors, by the way, and our partners for this series. In the Tanso Racing Group, GR86 UK Cup, Techsport Racing, TS Livery Designs, Discount Tyre, Blue Angel Kennels, and OMP, all of whom are with us this season, as well as Conspit.com. You can check them all out in our video description, and thank them, of course, for their contribution this season. Should also mention that for all of the drivers who make it to the end of both races tonight, will be in the random raffle for the track art given out at the end of every evening. Of course, this week's track art will be for Knockhill, as we're here. So everyone who makes it to the end of both of those races will be in the raffle that we'll do at the end of the race. So stay tuned for that a little bit later on, just before we get into the driver interviews a little bit later in the evening. Just on board, seeing some spins here and some action here in the warm-up session, or as you often call it, Brad, the cool-down session, which is probably more accurately what it is. Dan Wareham finding new parts of the circuit, but surprisingly, everybody just seems to be out on the circuit, but also they just seem to be messing about, really. While they're waiting for the second race. Just about 30 seconds remaining of this warm-up session now.
Yeah, and that's why I call this the cool-down session, is because sometimes if you get really frustrated from race one, you can just take the car and slam it into a wall during the session and kind of say, you know what, I'm going to reset, I'm going to go, not saying I've done that, but saying I've known drivers that have decided, you know, I've had a really bad first race, what I just need to do is go full speed into a wall here during this in-between session and kind of just reset for the second race. Some drivers will use it and actually try to put in some serious laps and, you know, try to find pace, try to find that little bit of a limit that they couldn't find before. Some drivers will just do slow pace laps and kind of relax. Regardless of which way you want to go, it's always fun. Dan Wareham there we see with a little bit of a slidey-do into the barriers right at the end of the session. And Ewan, we will go ahead and get ready for this second race. Let's run down this reverse grid really quick here.
Yep. If Peter Woodmore takes the start, it will be him on the front ahead of Clyde Comfort, with Simon McPhee and John Johnson on row 2. Mike Walters and Mark Proctor next, ahead of Dean Cummings and Michael Vester. Rick Wishon and Jeremy Allemans rounding out the top 10. Dan Forster and Dave Collier will be on row 6, ahead of Peter Duke and Neil Kennedy. Alan McCain just missed out on the podium first time round. Of course, he'll be just behind, ahead of Dan Wareham, I should say. Ahead of Mark Brown and Scott McFall, who will start at the back, as we know. It looks like, for the most part, everybody is readying up here, apart from Peter Woodmore, but I just wonder whether that is going to stay the same, and indeed it will. So, with 25 minutes on the clock, it's time for reverse grid racing at Knockhill, and a good start from Clyde Comfort. Very good launch indeed. On the outside line there is effectively pole sitter, of course, as behind, 3 wide in towards turn number 1. Inside line for Walters. Oh, he gets very close and there's contact. That was always going to happen. He spins around, as do some others as well. John Johnson, another one of them, who's off the road down there, I'm afraid. It's been carnage off the start as Clyde Comfort races out to a 3-second lead already. Mark Proctor's up to second. There's going to be a spin here, surely, for somebody else as well. Oh, Mark Proctor loses a place to McPhee, and Jeremy Allemans was the one who was sliding all over the place as well. Peter Duke's already up to 4th place.
The elbows are out very, very early on. We jump back here with Collier, McCain, Kennedy that are battling through. Forster dropping down places here as we go through. And look at Scott McFall up into 12, side by side into the final corner we go, 2 by 2. No single file this time around. Everybody's very much ready to fight and run and keep things going. And 4.3 seconds. Already the lead for Clyde Comfort ahead of Simon McPhee. Side by side they go. Where they stop, nobody knows. Let's not take it 3 wide, but side by side.
McFall already up to 10th place. Off at the start here is Clyde Comfort's off the road by himself. Oh, Clyde Comfort has made a big error down the hill here after a huge lead that he got after lap 1. He's lost it all immediately here. Mark Proctor goes around for a spin as well. Scott McFall's going to go around by the looks of things. He's involved as he saved it, maybe. But there's spinners everywhere here. Dan Forster and McFall did indeed go around. Scott McFall now has got a big job in his hands to come back through and try and win from here.
This is going to be a hard-fought race. 2x2, they go here. Allerman's wishing, Cummins, McCain going 2x2. Let's go ahead and slide in Mark Brown into the mix as well. It looks like race 2 is really anyone's game here as we go. We'll see exactly how the battles shape up. I will get everyone a replay here of those couple of big incidents shortly, because there was a lot. We'll get a replay here in just a minute once the drivers decide to sort of breathe and go through it. Neil Kennedy runs wide and holds on to it.
There's not going to be much breathing here, that's for sure. Oh, slide and all sorts going on there as they make their way through down the inside. Alan McCain through on Mark Brown, although he slides, and he's been pretty good at saving them, but he needs the ground on the grass to save it bit this time round, and Brown races on through. Here comes Kennedy as well, very close in behind. Dan Wareham and Dean Cummings are just in behind too here. Down the inside goes Kennedy on McCain. Oh, and he goes for a spin. Oh, those two have been battling all night long, and Kennedy this time comes off worse.
And Kennedy will join out right here with Scott McFall and Michael Vester, who are running side by side down the main straight here. Scott McFall just trying to get the pass done. Neil Kennedy very, very wisely just pulls all the way off of the road and stays out of the way. We've already lost Michael Proctor. We've already lost Dave Collier. Peter Woodmore did not take the race start here, so 3 cars out as we go. Dave Collier actually back in the session here, so 1 car out. Technically 2 as we go through. And again, Scott McFall driving with a little bit of ferociousness that we're not used to seeing there. The car getting a little more unsteady than it did in race 1. I think Scott McFall knows there's a challenge on his hands, and he has decided to push things quick. Side by side here, Wishing, McCain. Let's go ahead and throw Mark Brown up the inside of the final corner here, Ewan.
Yep, that's a good pass for Mark Brown up into 4th place. Ahead of Rick Rushon. Then it is Alan McCain just in behind, then Dan Wareham as well in this battle for 4th place. Sam McPhee's doing a good job of holding off Peter Duke here, by the way. I think Peter Duke's in a phenomenal position to try and win from here, but he's finding it difficult to get into the lead and really run away and put this race to bed here. Peter Duke, of course, going into tonight was 5th place in the championship after making some strides at Snetterton 1 week ago. He's now looking at maybe a first race win of the season, but he's finding it pretty difficult to try and get through here. Alan McCain, meanwhile, gets past Rick Wishon into Clark, and here comes Wareham on the inside line of Rick Wishon. Maybe he's going to be coming down the inside of Alan McCain as well here. Will he have a look? No, not quite. He will stay behind and he'll continue his battle with Wishon instead, and does get through. Rick Wishon down now to 7th place as Dan Wareham moves up.
I really thought that Wareham was going to try to go for a very, very hard, aggressive late break dive there into the final corner. Thankfully did not do that. Everybody keeps things clean. Peter Duke is catching Simon McPhee here through the first couple of corners. Ewan, I think we have a moment. Let's go back lap 1 here and see what we can catch. We're going to take a very wide overhead shot. This is lap 1. This is the 3 wide into the beginning of the lap. And, well, there's the spin that starts it all. And then it just kind of kept going behind as they kept through. They all piled up into turn 2, and well, it just wasn't done from there. John Johnston then instigating the next session there, going off track. Many drivers in. I want to ride on board with Scott McFall here and see what Scott McFall really saw of this, because Scott McFall, as you very well caught, got really caught up in this sort of 3rd accident as it happened out of the chicane.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what lap it was, to be honest, but he took things quite calmly off the start. Didn't even try and gain places initially, but eventually it all kicked off ahead of him, and he was able to get to the outside. So you saw that opening sector or two there. He very much just held back, knowing that, it probably wasn't a great idea to try and get involved. He was very much squeezed to the outside there of the final corner, and that fall then off the road as a result of all of that, but makes good progress. He was already inside the top 10 after lap number 1, but it did fall apart a little bit later on. Not sure whether it was on this lap or the next one.
Believe it was going into this lap. We're going into lap 2 now. We'll jump here with Clyde Cunfer. This is where things started. This is our race leader. Had a 5-second lead in the beginning and just a little too much sausage curb, spins it around, and well, at this point, it's the whole field going by as he has to take a very, very wide berth. But what happened with Scott McFall? Well, let's ride on board here with Scott McFall and see how this happened. Goes through, this is through chicane, and goes up, car in front spins, and there was absolutely no avoiding that. Gets tapped, and then just brings it on the rest of the way around.
Well, he's back to 8th place now, I can tell you, in live pictures. He's just passed Dean Cummings. So it's clearly not damaged. That would be my fear after seeing that replay, to be honest, that he'd be damaged after contact there. There you can see it. Oh, a little bit of contact. Mark Proctor's another one out on the outside. That's damaged, though. Back there. Oh, dear. Mark Proctor is indeed out the race, by the way, as a result of all this. Spins at the chicane. Eventually... I should be... Yeah, so he's not the one who gets in the way of everybody in the end. It's others who are spinning around and whatever. Maybe Dave Collier, was it? I don't know. But meanwhile, side by side for the lead. Can Peter Duke now finally find his way through with the pressure of Mark Brown really just behind him? Finally, he's got to move on. Although McPhee's, looking at the inside, and that could have been worse. Very nearly clipped him there, and Peter Duke makes his way through into the lead of this race.
Peter Duke finally making the way through. I thought McPhee was going to stick the bumper to him, a la carte Bristol NASCAR. Thankfully did not here in the GR86 UK Cup. And they keep going 1, 2, 3. Now the question is for Mark Brown. How quickly can Mark Brown get around and get through? I do want to also jump back with our wonderful 7th place driver, Scott McFall, on the recovery drives. And if you're wondering how far away Scott McFall is from the lead of this race, if you have any sort of a friendly question mark wager on that, well, it's currently 4.5 seconds away from the lead. And if you're wondering how fast he's lapping, well, I'll tell you right now, Scott McFall's last lap time was a 55.4. The leaders were running 57s.
Yes, so... can he still get there? I mean, maybe. It's not out of the question at all. He's on the back of Rick Wishon at the moment, although Peter Duke being in the lead is a big problem for him. He's going to be difficult to catch in 15 minutes. There's a big slide for Wishon, just ahead of McFall here, and he's going to have a look at the inside in towards Clark. That'll be pretty easy for Scott McFall, you would have thought. No? Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Round the outside for Rick Wishon, and he stays ahead. Meanwhile, further up, McPhee and Brown are going side by side. Mark Brown needs to get through very quickly if he wants a chance at this race win, because Duke, as I say, will be getting away. McPhee goes very wide now, though. And so Brown, McCain gets through, and here comes Dan Wareham now as well. This is going to be moving towards turn 1 then for Wareham, and who's going to get the slipstream here? McCain has dictated terms now, and McPhee gets the slipstream, but he's on the outside line, and Wareham breaks later on the inside line, so McPhee is down to 5th place now after leading earlier on, and look at that, Scott McFall is up to 6th place, making that move on Rick Wishon.
Yeah, Scott McFall absolutely launched that car through to make that move stick on Rick Wishon, and will continue along through chicane. Again, we're seeing Scott McFall just eke performance out of this GR86 that it's almost inhuman how much performance he can pull out of this car, how fast he can get the car to go, how on the ragged edge he puts the car. It's amazing to watch as they continue along here. Up in the front, Peter Duke is now under pressure by half a second, and I believe that is going to be Mike Walters up ahead for company there by half a second, and that is going to start to produce some lap traffic problems for Peter Duke as we continue along.
Yep. It's always a problem around here. Only 55-second lap times, or 55.0, the current best. More regularly in the 56s, but anyway, it's a busy circuit, and so you're always going to find yourself in this kind of trouble, even with only 16 remaining on the circuit. Oh, here goes Mark Brown immediately. Duke's made a mistake there, surely, and Mark Brown's been allowed to get through immediately, but Peter Duke's not going to let that go lightly, because Brown goes sideways through Clark, and that surely is going to give him a great chance to come back again on the inside line, the final corner. There's a lot of drivers in contention for this win here as they squabble over the lead. Peter Duke takes it back again.
Yeah, and as they're doing that, Scott McFall in the background here with Simon McPhee continues to battle along. Clark is such a hard corner for these cars. I feel like every time we see a car through Clark, it's not going straight. It is very much kicked out at a slide. Oh, that's a big error from Mark Brown. Hard on the brakes, locks it up, still wiggling.
What a save. Great save. Normally, when these cars wiggle like that, you're not getting it back, but that was a great save from Mark Brown. Wareham had to avoid him as well, not to just tip him over the edge, because he certainly would have done. And he might have got involved in the accident himself as well. So great driving from everybody involved there, but especially Mark Brown to hang on to that. You very rarely see these GR86s come back from that sort of slide.
Yeah, amazing car control being shown there. And I think there was a little bit of a tap to the rear bumper, because I can see a little bit of rear bumper damage on his car as he goes through the shot. We'll see if we can get a good photo of it, or a good image of it here in a moment, but I want to ride on board with a certain someone who is looking very quick. Scott McFall here, looking left, looking right. Dan Wareham parking the car right in the middle. How wide is a GR86? Well, I'll tell you, it's not as wide as a school bus, but probably feels like it right now, because Dan Wareham is doing everything right to block Scott McFall from getting past.
So look down the inside there from McFall, but couldn't quite do it. Oh, big slide again through chicane, and he gets away with it again. That's been the story of the race so far, really, for these top drivers. They keep getting away with it. Wareham now going for a big slide. Surely he's going to be under pressure from McFall. And just up ahead, you can see Brown and McCain going side by side. Mark Brown trying to recover some of those places again, and can't quite do it into the final corner this time around. We are, by the way, over half distance here. We're going to get, of course, at least 27 laps in this one, maybe 28. So it's a very long race, but there's a long way to go still in this one. 11 and a half minutes left on the clock.
And these top drivers continue to battle through Rick Wishon into the pit lane here. Neil Kennedy will inherit 9th place from that. Looks like Michael Vester will inherit a place as well. Not sure if that's a drive-through or what that may be as our leaders come through the front stretch here. Top 5 separated by just over 2 seconds as they run along and continue. Actually, it's less than that. It's just over 1 second separating our top 5. As now we go side by side with McCain and Brown. Who's going to come out ahead here?
Side by side, and Brown pretty easily through ahead of McCain. Then it's Wareham and McFall. McFall will squeeze there to the outside line, and he's going to try and get the exit instead. That's Walters trying to stay out of everybody's way, and who can blame him? He's down in 13th place at the moment. Here comes McFall, though, in the quadruple slipstream, as if that's making much of a difference at the moment. Some of them are quite far ahead of him. He looks down the inside, can't do it. And it's good for him that there's 5 relatively evenly matched drivers at the front of this race, to be honest, because that means that it's going to be difficult for anyone really to get away. That's what McFall needs here. Earlier on in the race, there was a big danger that one of the big drivers was going to get away alone and run away with this race, but that's not a concern anymore. He's in this battle with the rest of them, and Brown retakes the lead here. Such a topsy-turvy race as Peter Duke comes back at him again.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very close one to call here. Officially 10 minutes left to go, and I'm going to be honest, this could go all the way through to the line. Oh! That is Peter Duke and Mark Brown coming together.
Yeah, and the other 3 go through into 1, 2, 3 now. So McCain, Wareham and McFall are going to be fighting over this win. Brown spun with Peter Duke there, and that one's going to be argued about between the two of them. Although I've got to say, you always have to leave space on the outside line, otherwise you will spin yourself around. That's what I'll say about that, because those two now are out of this front group. It's now 3 for the lead rather than 5.
Yeah, and we'll do one replay for the one replay. I want to see an overhead angle on how this happens. So this is Peter Duke to the outside, Mark Brown to the inside. Mark Brown cuts that corner very hard. Peter Duke's there, and I'm going to take one more angle of this, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably going to let it go to bed because nobody's going to be happy with anyone's thoughts on this.
It's very difficult, that one, to call. I know earlier, obviously, I was talking about leaving space on the outside line. It wasn't quite one of those situations where the driver on the inside is at fault because they've squeezed the driver out to the outside and sort of spun themselves. That wasn't really the case there. it's a sort of meeting in the middle there, as Brown is trying to squeeze Duke as much as possible, but also Duke is trying to squeeze Brown as much as possible as well, and they just end up meeting in the middle there. That's a very difficult one to call indeed. I'm sure they'll be discussing that between themselves, very possibly, and we'll see what comes of it. But anyway, 3 for the lead now. Scott McFall is coming through. Is he going to win a reverse grid race for the second time this season as he works his way down the inside of Dan Wareham and up to second place now?
And normally you would see drivers kind of look and go, oh, it's Scott McFall. I know it's Scott McFall. I'm going to, not make this too difficult. These top 3 are not going to care. They're going to fight this all the way tooth and nail to the end here. As you can see, Elaine McCain, Scott McFall side by side. Dan Wareham's right there in the mix. Scott McFall hits the curb. There's a little bit of contact there side by side as they go, but it is going to be Scott McFall trying to hold that. No! It's Scott McFall gets spun into the barrier.
It's not his first incident of this race, Scott McFall, but it might be the most decisive. He's stuck in the gravel down there at turn number 3.
That's suspension failure.
Can he get back going again?
I believe that right front is gone.
Oh, it looked all right to me, actually, suspension-wise, but he's certainly gone back to pit lane and retired. So what's happened here? I mean, this is another case here of a very similar incident as what we saw between Duke and Brown. Again, I think that's a meeting in the middle between 2 drivers racing into a corner in almost exactly the same fashion as Duke and Brown had in the final corner. An almost impossible one to call again.
I don't want to be I don't want to be in the room where it's called. I don't want to be in the room where it happens. I don't want to know. I don't want to be the person responsible for making that decision. I had this conversation last night with someone that I respect stewards. They have a very hard job. I never want to do their job.
No, neither do I. To be honest, it's a very, very difficult job indeed, as Simon McPhee here makes his way now onto the back of Jeremy Aldermans, who's made some real progress. He's up to 4th place now. And just look at what you can achieve by staying out of trouble. Aldermans and McPhee are not the 4th and 5th quickest drivers in this field, with all due respect to them, but they've been some of the cleanest drivers in this field, and that's exactly why they're both in a very solid top 5 position.
Goodness gracious me, this has been a race that has went up one way, down the other, send it around, and I tell you what, for a track that has 55-second laps, this has been heart-stopping time and time and time again. As Scott McFall is still in the pits and officially in last place for the drivers running in this race. So our battles as they stand now, we've went from 5 cars battling for the lead to now it's Dan Wareham and Elaine McCain battling for the lead. That gap opens up a little bit, and Aldermans and McPhee are battling for 4th place right now.
Peter Woodmore in the YouTube chat says both cars that were taken out were in front, suggesting that the drivers who were spun around were not at fault for their incidents. Yeah, I mean, I can see it from that viewpoint. I can also see it from the other one. It's really difficult to call, I feel. Scott McFall, though, is going to be out of the race, and that's a real shame. Only the second time this season he's not finished on the podium. Only the first time this season he's not finished a race at all. And that's a real shame that it's coming to his home circuit here and he's had to retire in the last 10 minutes.
It's the home race curse. It is always going to strike you. At least he won the heat race and can hold on to that record. But yeah, the home race curse. It's always going to show up. It's always going to strike. Unfortunate, but it is one of the rules of the road. It's the reason I don't race at Kentucky Speedway in any NASCAR series that can be found anywhere. Because that is just the rules of the road. As we talk about rules of the road, side by side they go. And Rick Wishon with Michael Vester. Well, Rick Wishon going over the sausage curb, coming around, spinning through, and ending up losing quite a bit of time there. 4 minutes left to go in this race.
Over the line they go in the lead, and it'll be 5 laps to go here for these two. So Dan Wareham versus Adam McCain for the race win here in this one. 6 race wins in 9 so far for Scott McFall, 2 wins to Dan Forster and 1 win to Neil Kennedy so far. But it looks like we're going to get a 4th different race winner here this season in 3.5 minutes time. But will it be Wareham or McCain? I think Wareham maybe just has the measure. And based on what we saw in qualifying, where he was actually very close to Scott McFall indeed at the end, of that session. He's got a decent chance here as Dan Wareham of hanging on to the lead and getting his first race win of the season.
Yeah, Dan Wareham's looking very strong here, and I think if you are Dan Wareham at this point, it's really all about just hold it together and just hit your marks for the next 3 laps, 4 laps, however many more laps we get. We've got 3 minutes, 12 seconds on the clock as they cross the start-finish line, so I would think 3 minutes, 55-second laps, 3 laps to go here. Just mind the curbs, hit the marks, and, hey, bring home the win.
That will be the objective here for Dan Wareham now, as we ride on board with Alan McCain sliding his way down turn 4 there, up over the chicane, and there it is. Alan McCain goes for a spin at the chicane, and that will be that. He drops down to 3rd place. Mark Brown recovers to 2nd, despite all the things that have gone on for him today. And Alan McCain loses his chance at the race win. Now he's going to fight for his podium, as Jeremy Orlemans is going to be closing in here on a podium. What a great drive from him to stay out of trouble and now be knocking on the door of 3rd place.
Yeah, I think really Jeremy Orlemans, we haven't talked about a lot here this race, which is probably, probably a good sign for Jeremy, especially if you're in the position and the contention for a podium here. We'll see if he's able to use what should be 2 laps to go now and take advantage of that to get the pass done. We'll ride on board here for just a moment.
Here we go, on board with Jeremy Orlemans, the best place of the non-UK and Ireland drivers so far in this field. Actually the only one inside the top 7. Dean Cummings the next, of course, down in 8th place as things stand. He's getting close as well here as we close in on 2 laps to go. Orlemans is applying the pressure to McCain, who just slid himself. Orlemans doing the same, just correcting slightly over the crest of the hill there, and now into the slipstream he will go. And down the inside, very maybe here. No, not quite. He breaks a bit early. Alan McCain breaks late on the outside line and stays ahead. 2 laps to go here. And Orlemans has got to try and find his way through pretty quickly.
Yeah, and as we come past Barney here, I don't see a white flag waving, so it is 2 to go. We'll get essentially what you can call a bonus lap of racing here as they go through. They continue around, and man, Jeremy Orlemans looking very fast here. Just needs to find a way to put that nose through on the inside to get that pass done, if it's possible to really settle in that P3. But you can't launch the car like that and hold on to it and get away with it. Very lucky to get away with that.
That was a huge launch. It was taking off there over the chicane. That was real airtime there for Jeremy Orlemans. Just behind him, by the way, is one of the lap cars. So don't worry too much about that. Here's Peter Duke versus Neil Kennedy for 6th place. Duke is also recovering from an incident earlier on, of course. And he's got Kennedy, the one-time race winner so far this season, under pressure just in behind him. But they're coming through the final corner, lap 27, and this will be the last lap.
That it will. They're going to come up the hill here. Checkered flag white flag will be out. I hope it's not the checkered flag. I hope we didn't miss that. White flag is out and about there. Barney throwing the white flag through, and Dan Wareham going through chicane. Hold on to it right as we cut through. 2.6 seconds up on Mark Brown, and I think Dan Wareham will be very happy with where he's found himself here. Michael Vester, Rick Wisham going to battle it side by side down the main straight here. They'll settle that out, and tell you what, for Dan Wareham, it's been a good race.
Absolutely. Into the final corner for Dan Wareham, eventually hanging on from the onslaught from Alan McCain, Mark Brown and others. Dan Wareham comes out the final corner to become the 4th different race winner here this season in the GR86 UK Cup at the Tanso Racing Group. A great job from him to hang on in the end as he beats Mark Brown to the line here at Knockhill. Over the line for the others. Kennedy couldn't quite get past Duke at the end. They both caught Simon McPhee, who holds on to a fantastic P5 finish. As further behind, it looks like Wishon will hang on from Vester as well, as the last 2 drivers in the top 10 complete their races, and we complete our journey here at Knockhill. A good addition to the championship, great British racetrack, and it's great to be on this calendar for the UK Cup. Certainly provided a lot of action for us today.
Yeah, this track is amazing to watch through, and it makes me wonder what other cars, what other series would really be a lot of fun here. Imagine taking like a Formula Ford or something like that around this track would be a lot of fun. The GR86s, I think, are the perfect setup for this track, though. I think these and MX5s, that would be a good mixed class race to see. But GR86 Cup, UK Cup, pulling out another track that, again, I hadn't heard of till I saw the calendar, and Knockhill knocking it out of the park, or knocking it off of the hill. There we go. That's a better pun.
Maybe for this circuit, it is quite hilly, as we know. Let's have a look at the race results from race 2 as we complete our evening here at Knockhill in the GR86 UK Cup. Dan Wareham wins by 2 seconds ahead of Mark Brown, with Alan McCain holding off Jeremy Ullerman's right at the very end. Simon McPhee holds on for a great top 5 ahead of Peter Duke and Neil Kennedy, who were not too far away. Dean Cummings was the second of the non-UK and Ireland drivers in 8th place ahead of Rick Wishon and Michael Vester, then Clyde Comfort, the last driver on the lead lap. Dan Forster, Mike Walters and Dave Collier all finished 1 lap down. John Johnson 2 down. Scott McFall, Mark Proctor and Peter Woodmore all failed to make the finish. Indeed, Woodmore didn't start the race here today. Just before we get into the interviews, of course, I will do the spin the wheel for the track art. Of course, that's for all of the drivers who have completed both races here today. They're in with a chance of winning the track art for the Knockhill circuit, and so I've got to figure out who it's going to be this time around. Hang on, just figuring it out here. What are we? We're around number 5, aren't we? Here today. So it will be Dan Wareham. So not only has he won the second race, he's won the track art raffle as well for getting to the end of both races. So congratulations to him, and make sure you get in contact with John for sorting out the details on that. Let's chat to, indeed, the driver who provides them, and indeed the driver who finished second place in race 2 here tonight, Mark Brown, who's also second place in the championship. Welcome in, Mark. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on another good evening tonight. Let's chat about race 2. First of all, though, just a couple of seconds away from the race win, and a very chaotic race, I think it's fair to say. Plenty of incidents, indeed, as well. How do you think it went?
I would have liked to have won up, to be honest. I think it could have all right. I did get the lead of Peter maybe once or twice. It was just, I was forced onto a bad line, and he got past me again, but going into the last corner, I think it was about lap 16 or something, I thought I'd done enough to get past him, but race instant, he sort of didn't. He probably turned on a wee bit too much, where I was taking more of a tighter line, and got spun. So only for that there, I think I could have done enough to pull away from the rest of them. But yeah, all on that, I had 2 P2s, so well done Dan there in the second race, and Alan too. I see there was a bit of an incident there with Scott, but yeah, I was just actually watching the replay there, so it was, and I think. I think I don't know. Basically, Scott.
Oh, yeah.
Scott, he hit the curb into the first corner, and jumped out and hit Alan, and then come back in again, and probably opened out into Alan in the third corner. And okay, it's unfortunate Scott got turned, but I think he was pushing a wee bit too hard into that corner. So, but we'll see what the stewards say. Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. I'm surprised. I don't know. Well, there was a bit of carnage towards the second race, but I thought it was going to be a lot worse. So, to come back up to the field to get up to there again, I think is okay.
Absolutely. And by the way, on the incidents, that's kind of the conclusion we came to as well. Wouldn't like to be a steward for sure, deciding what is going to happen there with either of those incidents. To be honest, they're very similar in some ways, and equally difficult, in my opinion, to work out what went on. But there you go. Some people will have certainly made up their mind about them. How do you think this circuit raced in terms of wheel-to-wheel racing, though? I know you had that incident, and you mentioned the carnage at times during the second race. But actually, once things settled down and it was normal racing, how do you think this circuit was in the GR86?
Yeah, I think it's a class wee track. So it's sort of Marmite, you love it or hate it. It's technical. I know it's a short wee track, but it's a tactical wee thing. It's kind of fun when it all comes together. Like it's good to see that Scott and we were all on pretty equal pace. I know in qualifying, I wasn't happy with my qualifying lap because I did break into the 54s when I was practicing there, but Yeah, I like qualified. Well, Daniel, he qualified above me, so by a few milliseconds. So fair play to Dan too. Yeah, I like the wee track, but I'm sure there's other people will be glad it's over. So yeah, on to the next one, like Silverstone next. So that's going to be just going from was it chalk and cheese? It'll be narrow wee track to big long open. Might use actually the short Silverstone,
Well,
but.
Yeah. It is the short version of Silverstone, the one they use for the British Touring Car Championship, I think. So that will be not quite the long drawn out circuit that maybe last week was at Snetterton, but there we go. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Mark, before we let you go?
Just yourselves, you're doing a great job, so yours are, and John and all the headaches I suppose he has to go through with this, setting it up and keeping it running. So thanks very much, and it's great to be up here with the fast people fighting for it. So I think I might have extended my lead a wee bit now in Alan, hopefully. So it's still all to play for, for P2, 3, and 4 in the championship. So I don't think Dan's too far back as well. So yeah, it's good to see Simtech up there. We just can't really do it for against Scott now, but yeah, it's all good fun. So let's keep it coming.
Absolutely. Mark, thanks for coming to chat to us. Congratulations on finishing second in race 2 tonight, especially, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Not a problem. Thank you very much, and take care.
Thanks very much, Mark Brown there at second place in race 2 here tonight at Knockhill. Let's chat to Jeremy Ullemans as well, who has joined us from the end of race 2. Fourth place, Jeremy, in race 2 here tonight. But a lot about staying out of trouble that has gotten you into fourth place. Just how was that second race for you?
I don't know if you can hear me. I've had some mic issues before, so I don't know if you could. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, it was something else. For me, it was just surviving, basically. I wasn't too sure if I was going to make it for tonight's race because I have a toothache, a very bad toothache as well, and I was very tired. But I still thought I'd jump in, do some laps, and I was basically learning on the go. I had zero practice, just wanted to stay out of trouble. And during the first race and at the start of the second race, I started picking up pace. And eventually, in the last few laps, even fighting for P3, which was quite fun. So I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't do any practice before and maybe get like an even better result. But from my view, it was good fun.
Yeah, it was good fun to watch as well. I mean, I can't help but notice that your iRacing nationality, if you like, is not from the UK and Ireland, which is the sort of the nationality that you'd normally associate with knowing a lot about Knockhill and maybe being a bit more familiar with this circuit. How familiar were you with this circuit before you started driving it here tonight?
Not at all. I had to look up the track layout like 10 minutes before practice started, and I thought it was quite a boring layout. I actually said to the guys in the Discord as well, like, okay, we've had more exciting layouts until I actually jumped in the car and started doing laps, and it's a crazy track. It's such a short lap, but there's so much going on. Every corner is trying to kill you, and I like that. Basically, that's why like the Nordschleife is my favorite track because it's so demanding. You have to focus every lap, every corner. That's what I love.
Yeah, it's a fantastic circuit. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
John, the guy who set up this series. I think it's great doing or racing in a series which has like a focus point. Like I don't know. I'm sorry, English isn't my first language, but it's like all UK tracks, which I love, and I've never done Knockhill before. Thruxton's coming up in a few weeks, and you have Donington, Silverstone. I love it. I love a themed series, so to speak.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great to have you here as well. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us, Jeremy. And congratulations on a great performance, especially in race 2 tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good night.
Thanks very much, Jeremy Alderman's there, the fourth place driver from race 2 here at Knockhill tonight. Well, that's just about going to do it for us here, Brad. A great event, I've got to say, at Knockhill. Thoroughly enjoyed that, actually. Great racing and some tensions and sparks flying at the end there, but a fantastic round of this series, and Knockhill certainly providing the action that it was always going to here with such a difficult circuit on the calendar now, and just 2 more rounds to go until the end of the UK Cup.
Honestly, I think I might put Knockhill as my favorite track in the UK Cup here. It's been awesome to watch for a 2-kilometer circuit. That was, as you said, stellar racing. There was action, there was drama, there was fireworks, there was a new winner. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. So I'm excited to see what the final 2 weeks bring.
Yep, I am as well. A big thanks to everyone who's been watching along here tonight. It's been a pleasure once again to be here for the Tanso Racing Group's GR86 UK Cup. We'll be live from Silverstone next week, where Scott McFall takes a 97-point championship lead in ahead of Mark Brown and Alan McCain, who retain their top 3 places. The only change inside the top 5 is Peter Duke moving up to ahead of Dan Forster to 4th place. And a big mover in Dan Wareham. He moves up into the top 10 for the first time after starting tonight 20th. So there we go. That's the situation going into Silverstone National in 1 week's time. As I mentioned to Mark Brown, the same layout that the British Touring Car Championship, if you're familiar with that, uses. The old pit lane with a sharp right-hander just before Maggots and Beckett's. And then the run down the Wellington Straight in towards Brooklands and Luffield, and that's it. It's going to suit these cars very well indeed, I think. We'll be returning, of course, same time, same place for that. Make sure you subscribe in the meantime for all the other racing that goes on. But from myself, Ian O'Leary, and Bradley Dalton alongside me, it is goodbye for now, and see you in 1 week's time at Silverstone.